Chapter 10. The Sea of Tranquility, A Strange Meeting, Memories. Brianna gazed upon the open sight with wondrous eyes as she stood upon the shores of the Sea of Tranquility. Her mind held no memory of this enchanted place, although if she had been here before, she would have definitely remembered it. As far as she was concerned, this was the first time she had ever seen this place of marvel. The white sands were beautiful, laced with diamond sparkles that glimmered in the evernight. The water was not water at all, but the watery ethereal plane that encapsulated the mortal plane of existence. It touched the shores of tranquility as those bound to their final destination arose from its depths, completing their journey towards salvation. "Are you ready, Brianna?" asked a voice next to her. Brianna turned to Athenius. "Yes," she replied. The tall, skinny man with the scraggly tan hair scanned over the shores, watching the many that would transcend the plane of the universe. Brianna watched the glowing-bodied apparitions of loved ones as they awaited those who would join them in the afterlife. She and Athenius observed their tearful reunions with joyful happiness. Brianna scrunched her lips. It was an emotional sight to behold, and to her, becoming a watchman over the emerging souls appeared to be her calling. To her, they had the best job of all, caring enough to help those who were in need of assistance, even those poor souls who had no one to wait for them along the shores. That single notion gave Brianna the optimism to try for something that came so easy to her. She had worked so hard up to this point, learning the many facets of the afterlife. Being picked to become an angel had its many beautifully phenomenal aspects, but it was also very demanding. There was so much to do and so much to know, and yet Brianna struggled at times, understanding what all of it meant to her. She just wanted to help, to be there and stand up for the ones who could not do it for themselves, like all the times she wanted to before, but was too scared, too timid to do what was needed. This was her chance to work. This was her chance to become what she desired most. Brianna turned to Athenius. She felt blessed to be assigned to him, for he was a teacher, a mentor to those who were to become angels. His guidance had shown Brianna much of what an angel can be, and even more, what they can accomplish. Scholars, like him, lived to teach and pass on the knowledge to those new to the experience, like her. Brianna couldn't fathom the thought of being a teacher, not yet anyway. She had so much to learn and so much to experience. For it is one thing to know, but it is another to know through doing. That was what he would tell her from time to time. Brianna was humbled through much of her experience as she found herself expanding her ever-growing knowledge. Time did not seem like a factor to her anymore, although once, not long ago, she did overhear others talking, leaving her to wonder if 100 Earth years really had gone by since she first arrived. It did not feel that way to her. The only thing she did feel was the lingering thoughts of her family that she left behind so long ago. Athenius glanced at the young angel at his side, noticing that her eyes were lost in thought. He smiled and sighed. It had been his experience with numerous novices to never let them dwell, but to keep them focused and continue the learning process. He had seen it so many times. It was a second nature to him to explain everything in personal detail to everyone. However, Brianna was a little different. She was so emotional, yet so eager to do what was asked of her. Athenius had known much about whom she was and where she had come from, a basic for helping those in need to excel toward their final placement among the heavens. He took great care in approaching her with topics that she may have been sensitive to. There was a little to be worried about bringing her here, even though Brianna's pure form of caring made her an ideal watchman. But there were other aspects that she may have a harder time accepting. It was a requirement for her to at least be exposed to the life, as Athenius started out with the first points of his teachings. "Do you know why it takes so long for some novice angels to be introduced into the field?" Brianna released her thoughts as she looked up at him, and then shifted her eyes off to the side. The question did come to mind, more than she would admit, but she was too afraid to ask it. "No, I do not," she replied, shaking her head. Athenius nodded, shifting his brown eyes back over the shoreline. "There are those who are picked, yet may not accept the fact that they've passed on. It takes a long time for one to be introduced to the life that they have been chosen for. Servitude is an honour, not a demand," he reminded her. "There is much to be grateful for, but you have to leave your mortal life behind you. You may have wondered about your father or your mother on occasion." Brianna's eyes perked up at the mention of her family. "Yes," she told him, "I do. I think about them often, though I know it is not permitted." "Brianna," he told her, his voice soft yet commanding, "you can think about whomever you choose. We are not here to eliminate your past, for it is who you were that brought you here. No, you must understand, it is who you are to become that gives way to anything else. In time, when you have realized your potential, you may be able to see them. They more than likely know you are here, and are aware of what you have become. Do your best to honor them, Brianna, for I know that they would be very proud of you. Does this help you to understand?" Brianna turned her humbled gaze to the side. She had never realized how important it was for her to go through what she had for so long. It was foolish of her, feeling like she was missing something, but now her insides were calmer, more peaceful. His words soothed her inner being. She would see her parents again, someday, and that alone made her feel good. Her smile beamed into the Evernight, glistening with the shore. "Thank you," she said. "With that, I feel as if I can move on for the better." Athenius nodded at her acceptance. "Come then, let us walk." The two left their post, making their way down the sands toward the end of the universe. Other beings walked past them, bowing in respect of their presence. Brianna smiled at each one as Athenius bowed his head in response. There were a few other angels about, the actual watchmen of the shores. They were helping those who had no one to wait for them. It saddened Brianna to think that someone could be here and yet be all alone. She tried not to think too much about it, remembering that she was here to help, to make their passing easier. Yet one thought still lingered within her. "Athenius, why do I have no memory of being here? This is where all souls come to enter heaven, is it not?" Athenius smiled. He appreciated the fact that she was very observant in her learning, always asking questions, even though sometimes they were a bit off the topic at hand. "No, you did not come here," he replied. "I do not know if I can properly explain this. There are certain instances when a soul is destined to become an angel, but is needed to be extracted right away. Those cases are very rare, but vitally important. I am sure your reasons will be made clearer to you in the future, for in truth I do not know. But how you got here is not near as important as to why you were here. Remember that, Brianna." She nodded. It had never been brought to her attention before, but she was curious, even more so now that he explained so little to her. Her thoughts pondered on why hers would be such a rare case. "Look, over there," said Athenius. Brianna followed his direction. A short way from the shore, she noticed a lone figure rising out of the watery plain. His head emerged first, followed by the long, shaggy mane of hair which floated upon the surface, pulling down the closer he approached the shore. The man moved along with little effort, the ethereal plane giving way for him to walk with ease. Brianna watched in amazement at how it reacted to the man as he left the mortal plane behind. It was as if it were more than happy for him to leave, giving him every opportunity to continue unabated. What also caught her attention was that he appeared not to be wet at all. Not a single drop fell from his body the moment he stepped out upon the sand. The man stopped, hesitating a bit, not realizing where he was or what he was doing. His head continued to peer about his surroundings, his legs not sure about which direction he should continue to go. Brianna glanced over to some other souls farther down the shore. The man looked a little different from the others who were also emerging from the sea. There was a brighter light around his body, which was reflecting upon the watery surface, giving off a soft ambience to his outline. Her understanding began to grow, noticing the differences between who would move on and who were to be among the chosen. How that all came to be was something Brianna would ask Athenius at a later time. For now, she gazed at the man with respect and admiration, realizing the wonder of what was about to transpire.
"He is to become one of us."
"Yes," replied Athenius, "he is the reason why we are here." They continued toward the man, who was still peering around at the strange environment. He turned to watch the two approaching him, his body cowering with each of their steps. "Hello," Athenius told the man. "Welcome to your destination." The man shook his head, not quite understanding what was being said to him. His eyes were confused. He glanced around, not knowing whether to believe in what he saw. "Am I dreaming?" the man asked. Athenius gave him a warm smile, putting any worries or fears the man may have had to rest. "You have much to look forward to," said Athenius, his voice low and soothing. He reached for the man's hand. "Come, we will lead you to where you need to go." The man's eyes glanced about one last time and then settled upon Athenius's hand. He reached out, a wave of comfort settling over him the moment they clasped hands. The man nodded his head, accepting now what awaited him. The three began their walk back up the shore. Brianna watched how well Athenius handled the situation. As she had many times before, she would try his gentle approach, making it a part of her own abilities. Sometimes the same approach did not always work the same for different people, but it would amuse Athenius each time she tried. A soft noise caught Brianna's attention from down the shore as she turned to look. Someone was sitting out in the watery plain, not moving, not even making any attempt to make their way toward the shore. A dull light surrounded the figure, but it was not as bright as the man Athenius had just helped. Brianna squinted to get a better look. It was a bit surprising. If she did not know any better, she could have sworn that the figure was crying. "Athenius?" Athenius turned to look as Brianna pointed back toward the sea. "Someone else is out there. They appear to be glowing as well." Athenius nodded as he searched the shores on both sides, but there were no other angels around at the moment. He looked at Brianna and then back at the man next to him. This was an unusual circumstance, as no one was available to greet the new soul. Athenius turned back to Brianna. "I would think this would be a good opportunity for you to greet someone," he told her. "I will finish here and come back to assist you if you'd like." Brianna's heart beat with excitement. She was going to help someone, and by herself. Brianna nodded, her eagerness almost impossible to hide. "Yes, thank you," she beamed. Brianna quickly turned as she began her descent back toward the shore. Her feet moved quicker than they could carry her, as excitement was breathing through her skin. She had waited a long time for this moment, and she did not want to disappoint. As she reached the edge of the watery plain, Brianna looked out to the figure ahead. "Hello," she called out. The figure just sat there, ignoring her call. Yet her sobs began to steadily increase. Brianna could tell that it was a woman, even though her dark hair was covering her dismal face. The woman appeared oblivious to everything around her and made no attempt to move from her spot. Brianna hesitated for a second, contemplating what to do. There were no other angels about, and Athenius was gone as well. She looked down at the watery plain, not knowing if she was allowed to enter. Daring herself for the greater good, Brianna placed her foot in. It was cool but not cold. It felt like water, but not as she was accustomed to. It gave her feelings and sensations she had not felt in a long time. Memories appeared before her. She could see faces, images of people she knew of long ago. Another foot followed, each step taking her steadily closer to the woman. But it also brought her more images, this time of things that were not so good in her past life. She shook her head, trying not to let those images disrupt the task at hand. The water was difficult to move through as soon as it was up to her thighs. Each step became more of an effort, for the stronger the memories, the harder it was to move on. It was as if the water was trying to hold her back from going any further. With as much determination as she could muster, Brianna pushed one last time, reaching the lonesome woman. Brianna stopped. She closed her eyes, trying to remain focused. It took all of her effort to breathe slow as her senses became calm. Opening her eyes, Brianna looked down at the woman who was sitting in a daze as the plane loped about her being. Her head hung low, not noticing the one at her side. "Are you all right?" asked Brianna with concern as the woman's sobs began clenching at her heart. The woman sniffed as she finally lifted her head to the angel. The constant cascade of tears continued to spill down her cheeks in anguish for what she had been through.
Why? Why now? Why?
Her voice fell back into a cry. Brianna's body shook. This was not what she was expecting. She wanted to help her, but she didn't know how. She reached down to touch the woman's shoulder. The woman forcefully flinched from the contact. Brianna put her other hand around the woman's waist, trying to help her stand. But the harder she tried, the harder the woman resisted. "Please, we need to get you to where you're supposed to be," Brianna told her, a touch of frustration hitting her voice. She could not understand why the woman was being so difficult. The woman continued to sit in defiance, not wanting to move. "No," argued the woman. "I want to go back. Please." She lifted her head up once again. "Please help me get back. I don't belong here. I need to go." Brianna struggled with herself, feeling as if they would be sitting here for the rest of eternity. Then the woman began to stand. Brianna held the woman's shoulder fast, but was pulled along with her movement. She was heading back into the universe. Waves began to form. They pushed against the two, guiding them back toward the shore. Brianna tried to steady herself as the woman's movements and the aggressive waves were making it difficult to keep balance. The woman reached out, but despite her efforts, the waves pushed against her, driving her farther back in the opposite direction. Caught off balance by the constant barrage, the woman fell over. Brianna's grip on her remained as the two were thrust head-first into the watery plain. Brianna gulped, trying not to breathe in what she shouldn't. A vivid image appeared before her. It was her mother. Her face was sad, as if she had lost something precious. Brianna cringed at the thought as the waves of emotion continued to beat upon her heart. Where is she? Her mother was here somewhere, and she wanted so much to see her. Suddenly, the image was replaced by the face of the woman Brianna was helping. The woman grabbed hold of Brianna as they shot up to the surface of the water, the waves still splashing around the surface. The woman continued to fight against them, but the overall battle was becoming futile. Then, a larger wave formed, rising above their heads. It swooped down, hitting the two, sending them flying back onto the sandy beach. They were flung to the ground, its softness giving way to cushion their fall. Brianna wearily lifted her head up off the sand. She could not believe what she had just gone through. She spat out the watery substance that had entered her mouth, its jelly-like texture leaving a bitter taste upon her palate. The woman lay next to her, crying on the sands. The waves were gone. The waters were still once more. Brianna let out a huge sigh, not knowing what to do at this point. Nothing had ever prepared her for something like this, as she reached out, holding the woman's hand firmly in hers. The woman looked up, her fearful eyes glancing wildly about. She was unfocused, looking for something that wasn't there. After a few seconds, her eyes stopped at Brianna, ending the search for something she thought she could still have. It was all gone. Life as she knew it was now but a memory. Any further attempts to return would end in defeat, no matter how hard she tried.
"I'm sorry," said Brianna, her emotions taking over her voice. "I truly am, but there is no going back. You are here, and you are destined for a life greater than anything you could ever imagine. I know that may not bring much comfort to you now, but know this: no one is ever ready or prepared for what awaits. Everything will come in time. Do not worry. Everything will be all right." The woman's grip on Brianna's hand grew firm, her lips pulling into a frown. She reached up and put her arms around her. Brianna embraced the woman, feeling that maybe she would finally come to terms with what has happened after all. "I'm sorry," replied the woman, her body shaking with the cold, sudden truth. It's hard to realize what has happened. I didn't want to leave." She looked back toward the water as more souls began to emerge with friends and loved ones waiting. "You are too kind to someone like me," she muttered, turning back to Brianna. "I must look like an emotional mess of a soul to you." Brianna smiled, trying to ease her sorrows. "I would expect no less from someone with love in their heart," she told her. "That is the worst part of letting go. But we are here for you. We are here to guide you." The woman nodded, wiping her eyes from the tears that had finally stopped. She tried hard to put her bitter foolishness aside. The woman just could not come to terms with the fact that now she was a part of something more spectacular than anything she had ever known, yet was unable to appreciate it, as she should have. "What is your name?" the woman asked. "Brianna," the blonde angel replied, her feelings coming more under her control. The woman smiled. "That is a beautiful name, Brianna. My name is Sienna. Thank you for your kindness and understanding." Brianna's lips tried to smile, holding her tearful emotions back. "Pleased to meet you, Sienna," she happily replied. "Are you ready for what awaits you?" Sienna held her gaze for a second, and then turned back to the water. A sigh escaped her chest. It collapsed in, giving way for her head to bow down. She nodded, turning her full attention back to Brianna. "Yes," she replied, trying to exude confidence. Brianna helped her up. This time Sienna was more accepting of her support and reassurance for what was about to happen. Brianna glanced up, only to see Athenius waiting for them up the shore. The look on his face was one of great trust and admiration. She had done an exceptional job, and he did not need to tell her that right away. She knew. Brianna bowed her head, humbled that she did something good. Yet the echo of what just happened began to beleaguer her thoughts. What if they never let go of what they had? What if someone could fight off myself and the waves? Doubt-filled uncertainty loomed over her head. Brianna felt as if she could not handle something like that, not the way her emotions were at this time. There had to be something else she could do, something where her heart would not get in the way of her obligated duty. She looked at her mentor. Athenius would know. He knew everything. A lone figure walked hurriedly down the narrow hallway. His footsteps echoed off the side wall where the many doorways led to the abodes for some of the higher-ranking angels. Being only a messenger, he was more familiar with the ones the lower-classed beings resided in. Very rarely did he ever have the chance to enter the higher rooms of those that monitored the goings-on in existence. "Now there you go again, Bren," he said to himself. "Don't get all delusional about those that are of higher rank." He always had to remind himself of why he was a messenger and not a guardian like he always wanted to be. He just couldn't keep his mind on the tasks at hand. He rather liked being a messenger, though. It gave him plenty of time to think and let his mind wander. But the vital task of the moment kept him from doing his usual daydreaming. Bren glanced down at the piece of parchment held in his grip. The letter was stamped red for urgent. He did not come across many of those, being as the distributor was aware of his abilities, or at least lack of concentration. Yet this one made him curious.
It was for an angel that had not been around for a long time, but one that had made her way through the ranks quicker than most. Now here we go again, he reminded himself. If only you put your mind to it, you can achieve great things. You could become an archangel. He stopped. He continued again. No, don't be silly. Only those of the utmost honour and devotion are chosen to become archangels. I'm lucky to be a messenger. Could be worse. I could be straightening up all those messes that occur throughout the universe. He had made the mistake one time, calling the relief angels the janitors of the cosmos. Oh, big mistake that was. Could have kicked me right out for that one, they could. Bren shook his head. He did not need any more help from his overactive mind at the moment. Finally, he reached the door he was looking for. Matching the number on the door to the letter, he began to knock. He turned to look at the open balcony behind him. Its oversized opening allowed for angels to fly in and out to their respective posts. Bren sighed for his misfortune. Why they don't give me wings to get where I need to, I'll never know. He turned back to the door and knocked again. Miss Sienna? He asked out loud. I have a message for you. There was no reply. He glanced down at the door handle, contemplating whether or not to enter. It wasn't mannerly to enter without an invite, but there were strict guidelines to follow, especially with a letter marked urgent. Bren opened the door. The room inside was dark. The shades were drawn. Not one beam of light entered the room, save for the sliver that pierced its way through the doorway. This caught Bren by surprise. Is she sleeping? Hello? His eyes focused better to the dark surroundings as he noticed a figure sitting in the middle of the room on the floor. Her head was hung low. Bren approached her. Yes, hello. Sorry for the intrusion, but I have an urgent letter for you from the... Just leave it on the table, she replied in a low tone. Not a trace of emotion escaped her voice. Bren hesitated. All right, he replied, putting the letter on the table next to him. I am required on such a notice to return with a reply of some sort. Sienna looked up at him, revealing her tear-laden eyes to the messenger. Bren lurched back, shocked from the sight. Oh my, he exclaimed. I'm begging your pardon, ma'am, but are you all right? Sienna nodded as she wiped the wetness from her face. Yes, I am, thank you, she replied. Just remembering some things from before. Bren blinked to her with surprise. Oh, I am truly sorry, he admitted. It's all right, she said to him, trying to sound a little more cheerful. What is it that you wanted? Bren thought for a second. Oh yes, the letter, he said, motioning to the table. From what I was told, you have been absent from your duties as of late. There have been many concerned about you. Is there a quick message that I can give to them in your stead? Sienna glanced over to the letter, then back to the messenger. Tell them, she hesitated. Tell them I'm a bit under the weather at the moment. I shall be there when I am able to resume my duties. Bren fidgeted in place, not quite knowing how to reply. Angels were not known to suddenly fall ill. But the look on her face gave way to her condition, making him see her predicament. Oh, right, he replied. A bit off the mood, I see. So you may require a leave of some sorts, at least until you get better, that is. Sienna gave him a small smile. That does appear to be something you understand. Oh, me? Bren replied. I've been known to take some time off to clear the old head. I know perfectly well what you mean. Sienna gave out a small laugh. Thank you, she replied. You have at least lifted my spirits for the day. Bren took a small bow. Happy to be of service to you, my dear, he told her. I'll be off then, to pass on my message of extreme importance. Sienna nodded to him with great respect. Bren left the room, leaving her back to her gloomy thoughts. She was at a loss for the unfortunate memories of old. Never in her life was she supposed to feel like this, not as an angel. She had tried to forget her past, but it kept drawing her back, her life as a mortal still fresh in her mind. She dared not confront Brianna about it, for she would never understand. It might even jeopardize what she was trying to accomplish, and that upset Sienna even more. Looking up at the ceiling, Sienna prayed for a solution to her problems.
"Oh, please, God," she breathed. "Please help me through this. Please show me a sign that my worries may be for naught."
The darkness loomed over her head, but for an instant, she could have sworn she saw a glimmer of light in the far corner. Like a shooting star, it streaked across the darkened path before her, but only for a second. But even that was enough to bring warmth to her worried soul. He knew. He knew and was giving her a blessing. For the love of all that was good, he knew. She smiled slightly as the light left her, but the feeling of peace still carried on within her soul. Sienna waved her hand to the side. The shades withdrew from the window, letting the radiant light from outside fill the room. She closed her eyes to the intense brightness, but only briefly. She cherished the light, for it gave her hope. The hope she needed to know that things were indeed going to be all right.